You are listening to the Bell Ringers podcast on Philly Sports Reports, brought to you by SeatGeek. Here are your hosts, Colin Daly and Benjamin Goldstein.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Bell Ringers podcast. Colin Daly here alongside Benjamin Goldstein, back for another episode. And there is one thing that right off the bat we need to address today. You've heard it, but you're going to hear it again. Juan Soto, Ben.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
Yeah, you want to talk about money? We're talking about this Juan Soto contract, Colin.
We are, yeah. So I am still baffled by the deal. $765 million. He is under contract through 2039. It's a $51 million average salary and then a $75 million signing bonus. So we'll go through the list here. So he's 26 years old right now. He is guaranteed to be on the Mets until at least his age 30 season. Between his age 30 and 31 season, there's a player opt-out available. This is 2030, by the way. In 2030, he has an opt-out after 5 seasons with New York, which of course would open him up to free agency.
But if he opts into his deal, does not opt out, I don't know if you know this, it's a $4 million raise per season.
Correct.
So he goes from $51 million to $55 million a year.
Yep.
You either are probably going to make more money in contract negotiations again, or you're getting a $4 million bonus. I
Mhm.
mean, like Juan Soto is a money-making machine.
Yeah, he is. And then he doesn't become a free agent again until, get this, Ben, 2040. 2040. We will be 2/5 of the way through the century.
How old will we be in 2040?
I didn't do that math, but I did do this math. If we both, so right now, Ben and I are both juniors in high school. If we both go to 4-year universities, when Juan Soto becomes a free agent, we will have been out of college for a decade.
Wow. So we'll be like
Just
31,
let that
32.
soak in for a sec. That's insane.
Yeah, that's
insane. Well, it's a 15-year contract. We're both 17, so, you can do that math. It's about 32 years old. Yeah. So
that's not
it is
good.
insane. And of course, it's the New York Mets. Phillies played them 3-4 seasons minimum per year. I don't know. I used to know the number you played each team with the way they did the schedule.
Yeah, it got like
previously.
minimized.
Now I'm all lost.
It's like 4, I think. I'm not sure.
I
But
think I think you're right. It's 4 series. It's 4
Yeah.
series. Unless they
Soto,
mix in the 2 4-game series, then we're all lost. Or like last year, they had this split home and away. I don't know what that business is.
That was poor. That was bad. Soto's making $314,814.82 per game. If he has 4 at bats in every single game, he'll make $78,703.70 per at bat. He's going to make $139,726 every day, and $5,902 an hour for the next 15 years, and $1.68 per second.
What?
Second. $1.68. He's making over $1 per each second.
So that would be like me. Like go, how sometimes you go through the Wawa parking lot, or I don't know, whatever parking lot you're in, you see like a penny on the ground. You're like, oh, a penny on the ground. That would be like every time I take a step when I'm walking through a parking lot, there's 6 quarters sitting on the ground, and I pick them up.
Yeah,
that's Juan Soto right now.
Yeah.
If I did that for 15 years, I'd end up with, what is it,
$765
million. Come on.
You should get into it. Get into the penny picking business.
Like I see a penny, I'm like, oh, that's nice. I see a dime, and I'm like, it's my lucky day. This man's racking up quarters by the millisecond right now. It's insane.
Literally, yeah. I mean, you can't be like it was always the Yankees. It was always supposed to be the Yankees. They offered 16 years, $760. I mean, it's just a few $1 million extra per year that the Mets offered. and Soto took that. It's nearly the same offer. It's just Soto picked the Mets over the Yankees.
Yep.
You've never been able to say a player picked this team over the Yankees. This is the biggest. If you want to talk about the money, of course, but also like how much this means to baseball, this is the biggest contract in baseball history.
Oh, for sure.
A player picked
Indisputably.
a team that is known for failing over and over and over again over the most prestigious franchise in American sports. It's huge. And it's unfortunate because it's the Mets and the Phillies are going to have to play Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo, Mark Vientos, maybe Pete Alonso 4 times a year and probably meet up with them in the playoffs again. And of course, we all know the Mets are the team that kind of dominated the Phillies in the postseason.
Yeah.
It's, you hate the fans, you hate the team, and now you got to hate Juan Soto, which I never hated Juan Soto until, well, I guess now.
Yeah, and it is crazy. I mean, this kid, he was 19 years old in 2018. He made under $2 million.
He won a World Series in the next
Yeah.
year.
The next year, he wins a World Series. You'd think he gets some more money. He was on the All MLB second team that year. He gets $300,000 more than he did in his World Series year. He went up from 2.4 million to 2.7 million. How absurd is that? Now he hits the market 51. Come on.
This is the 4th straight year he's on a different team for opening day.
Yeah.
2020.
And I'll tell you, you don't see that then, do you? You don't see it.
No, 21 was Washington, 22 San Diego, 23 Yankees. Now he's with the Mets. But I mean, good for Juan Soto, man. Like, you got it.
Seriously.
The guy is going to make 606. The guy is going to make. Oh, and if you include everything, you add up everything, he's going to make $805 million over this 15-year contract. If you add the signing bonus and if you put in the raise, if he opts into the deal, so it's over $805 roughly million dollars to play baseball. The dude is playing base. The dude is swinging a bat and playing the field and making $805 million.
He's waving a log around.
There's so much like debate with sports players getting paid more than they really should, which absolutely, this is absurd. This is absolutely absurd. It's unheard of, but it's the Mets. It's the new New York Mets under Steve Cohen. He's completely turned around this franchise, and I mean, he's got more to spend. He said he's going to outbid anybody. The Mets are not done. They need pitching really bad, and they're going to go get it because Steve Cohen has endless money. And it's bad for the Phillies.
I agree that, I mean, that's a ridiculous number. I think absurd is the best word for it. But relative to what other teams are handing out contract-wise these days, I'm not surprised. I mean, this kid came onto the scene at 16 years old and blew everyone's socks off. So I'm not surprised that he's getting his money, not even a little bit. And I mean, he does have the arsenal to back it up, right? He's 3 times on the All MLB first team. He's on the All MLB second time. He won the National League Silver Slugger Award 4 times, the AL Silver Slugger Award just last year at the other side of New York, on the other end of the Subway Series in the Bronx. So again, yeah, is it a ridiculous number? Sure. Should he be getting paid that much money? Sure. Should he be getting paid that much money? Absolutely not. But is it something that is he getting robbed of money? No. If he was going to get a contract, which you all knew he would get, he was going to get something like this. So I'm not surprised.
You're not surprised that he's getting over $700 million. He's getting $65 million more than Shohei Ohtani is, a guy who can hit and pitch and drive in money from around the world. Like Juan Soto isn't doing everything that Ohtani can do for a team financially and on the field. When I first went into the Soto thing, I was all right, 650 plus 10 years, $650 million is what I am thinking. I said if he gets over 700 million, the market of sports is going to be destroyed for good because players are going to overvalue themselves and are going to get, crazy contracts in NFL. And I mean, you already look, Dak Prescott's making $60 million a year with the Dallas Cowboys. Like all these things put together, like sports market it's cooked, for a better, use of word. It's crazy what these athletes are getting paid. And now you have the biggest in American sports history, 15 years, $765 million. Like, where do you go?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. Overvaluing of players. I mean, overvaluing of players has happened, and it's going to keep happening regardless of the scale in which it's occurring. I think that Soto is the second best player in baseball right now. People forget he's only 26 years old, yet he's got, over 6 full years of service time. He started when he was our age playing Major League Baseball. I mean, we're both turning 18 in a few months, and you know, this guy was getting ready to debut with the Nationals at that age. So he is as close to like pure raw talent as you're gonna find alongside Shohei Ohtani. So I'm not surprised their contracts are similar, but a year, 2 years, that makes a difference when it comes to, contracts that are being signed. I mean, if you go back just like a decade into 2000 and, we'll say in 2015, look at those contracts and compare them to what players are getting now. The superstars are getting paid like are getting paid the same. Sorry, whew. In 2015, your superstars are getting paid what like your seventh inning out of the bullpen guy is getting paid right now. So again, do I think it's right? No, it's not right. He doesn't deserve 700+ million dollars, close to $800 million, which, as you said, he's going to get with his incentives and bonuses and all that good stuff. But not surprised at all.
It's hard to say I'm surprised, but it's like hurts me it hurts as a Phillies fan. The Mets payroll will be north of $360 million when it's probably all said and done this season. So that's a chunk of change. I want to talk the Phillies. If you thought the Phillies, like you look at this contract now, and if you thought the Phillies had a chance at Juan Soto, I know
Hmm.
there's a lot of advertisements around Citizens Bank Park, but the Phillies do not have $765 million to spend on a player when they have a ton of holes to fill in this roster. Like the Phillies allegedly talked to Soto, talked to Scott Boras, about meeting with Soto. A meeting never happened. The Phillies never even put in an offer. And I mean, the Phillies were going to offer that, 650 maybe, the 13, 650, 15, 650. It would have been a waste of their time.
Yeah, no, you're right. It would have been. They didn't send the shot. I don't think really Soto wanted to come to Philadelphia. I think that he had his eye on that bigger market in New York, Los Angeles, um, which really only narrows you down to like three competitive teams. So yeah, I'm not surprised. Again, none of this. Like I saw that notification from Jeff Passan that came through, and I was like, "Yep, okay, like it's done, right? Like something that I had that preconceived notion about. I can just confirm, and we'll move on to some things that are really realistic for this Phillies team, such as Jordan Romano, who I think was a great pickup by the Phillies. We'll get into him very shortly, um, but no, Soto was never going to happen.
And if you think it did, well, let's be, a little more aligned.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Soto's first game as a Met at Citizens Bank Park will be Friday, June 20th, if anybody's interested in
No, not really interested actually.
booing Juan Soto from the right field seats. We could talk about Jordan Romano.
Yeah, let's do it.
1 year, $7.775 million, late role guy filling in either Hoffman or Estevez, one of those two roles. Winter meetings are going on, so things are going to be happening throughout the week. And Philly's first move is Romano. Over 2021 to 23, Romano was one of the best relievers in baseball, if not the best closer in the American League. Had a 2.37 ERA in 186 innings. Throughout those 3 seasons, allowed a .172 opponent's batting average, had 90-plus saves through that time, made the American League All-Star roster in 22 and 23. But last season, just 13 and two-thirds innings, a 6.59 ERA, and had season-ending elbow surgery. And now he was not tendered by the Blue Jays, and now the Phillies picked him up. 31 years old, fastball, slider. The fastball is like 97. The slider's upper 80s. We've seen the Phillies kind of make signings like this before where they take a chance on a guy and they try and work with him. That's what Caleb Cotham's exactly what he's going to try and do. If they can revert Romano back into what he was a few years ago, one of the best closers of the American League, not that he's going to be the closer on the Phillies, but if they can revert him back into what he was, this could be a great deal for the Phillies.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I don't even know if we need to revert him back to where he was before, because if you look at it, he only threw, 13 and two-thirds innings in 2024. He got 8 saves and 9 opportunities, and yeah, his ERA was really, really inflated. But on that same token, it's important to remember that, that underlying elbow injury that required him to have surgery likely had a pretty significant impact on that, inflated stat line that I just mentioned. But if you go back even to 2020, 1.23 ERA followed by, 3 seasons in a row where he pitched 60 games. I mean, 2023, he threw 59, but he threw 62 in 21 and 63 in 2022. And his numbers just all across the board were great. He limits his hits, doesn't walk a lot of guys. He gets a lot of balls in the ground. He's probably, I mean, he strikes guys out. Definitely earlier in his career, he was more of a strikeout pitcher. The last 3 seasons, he's been pitching to contact a lot more, which has, I would say, it's helped him as he gets later in his career. He's 31 years old now, so he's still in a really, really good position to, be successful in the back end of the bullpen. And for him, this kind of reminds me of the Jeff Hoffman signing. It's, Romano's obviously not in as big of a hole as Hoffman was when they picked him up 2 years ago. But he's certainly a guy who could have an incredible season and end up inking just a huge, huge contract in the 2026 offseason. So around this time next year. But again, like this is a very I think that the deal they got for him. Now, quick question. I'm looking here on Spot Track, and it says 8.5 million for Romano.
Oh, that is right. It was bumped up. I
Yeah.
wrote down what I originally had, but yeah, it was reported later. It's like 8.5. But like, I mean, if you look at what some other, if you look at like the reliever market right now, like Aroldis Chapman got a 1-year, $11 million deal with I think Boston.
No.
Like the reliever market's high right now, and getting a Romano for 8.5 million for a year is obviously
a steal.
It's not a.
I'd call it a steal. Have you seen these contracts these other relievers have been getting? Especially last offseason, they were insane. These guys go out there and pitch an inning every other day.
It's a good deal for the Phillies. If they can bring him, if he can turn back into what he was as a true great closeout guy for the Phillies. Phillies haven't had a good closer since Brad Lidge. Like now they kind of have a closer by committee, so Romano will have to earn that closer role. So,
yeah, I mean, Craig Kimbrell was a good closer when he was healthy, but he was too old to be in that position all year.
Yeah,
you've seen that for 3 years in a row with him now, right? Just he doesn't have the not perseverance, but he doesn't have the
stamina.
Yeah, the stamina to make it through a full 162.
Does this come off as like a low risk, high reward kind of thing?
Absolutely. I love it. I was thrilled when I saw this. And I'll tell you, you can disagree at 8.5 to steal. I really think that. I think you're going to see some ridiculous contracts for these guys who pitch an inning every other day.
I think a ridiculous contract is going to come out as Jeff Hoffman. I think he's going to get a big I think he's going to get a big deal with somebody. And it sounds like the Phillies they're still interested. They're in on a reunion per Matt Gelb reported this on Monday. It's unclear if they'll find a match. Gelb wrote, Hoffman has been, looked as a starter from other teams. It's unclear if the Phillies want him as the starter. You would like him back in that late bullpen role, but with his pitch mix, teams want him as a starter. I don't think the Phillies would use him as a starter. Does that have, should that have the Phillies out on Hoffman? It could.
Yeah, it will. I think so. They're blocked by Painter.
Unless
He needs an alleyway.
do you ride Hoffman for half a year in the starting rotation until Painter's ready? You bring him up, you move Hoffman back to the bullpen, or you're going to be paying a starting pitching salary for a relief pitcher. Like, that's a problem.
That's what I was going to mention. Yeah, I don't think you drop that kind of money on a guy that you're going to just like bump around at other people's conveniences. I don't think that would happen. I also don't think that Hoffman would sign a contract realizing that's a possibility.
I mean, he should know that's a possibility. Like, if the Phillies lose Hoffman and Estevez, like, those are two. Like, Estevez was good primarily in that late role for the Phillies since he was
Yeah, he was.
here. Like, that, those are two huge holes you're losing, and there's like not a ton of improvement that you can kind of fill in there.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's going to be hard to find replacements for those two, especially Hoffman, who just ate up innings the last 2 years. I wouldn't be surprised to see one of them come back to Philadelphia, but I don't foresee it really happening.
And just so people,
I just think that the demand is too high for relievers right now.
and so people aren't angry, we'll mention Roki Sasaki. Phillies are in the mix.
No, they're not. No, they're not. Don't lie to yourselves, people.
23 years old. In his 69 games in the Japanese Pacific League, he had a 2.02 ERA, 524 strikeouts, 91 walks, 414.2 innings pitched. Those are absurd numbers. Is he coming to the Phillies? Absolutely not.
No, he's already got his plane ticket for the West Coast. He has an apartment in Los Angeles. All he has to do is hit a button. I can guarantee it.
I guess he kind of has to put pen to paper.
He will be an Angel, a Dodger, or maybe a Giant.
I think he's going to the team that wears blue, Colin.
Yeah, you think so?
Who would pass up a chance to play with Ohtani and Yamamoto?
And start a club down there.
Three-headed monster. I mean, like, Sasaki's like really, really good, and like Dodgers also just signed Blake Snell, so you're looking at Yamamoto, Glasnow, Snell, Sasaki. I mean, I guess Kershaw, but
yeah, that's. I mean, and they have guys in the minor leagues too who could.
Or Walker Buehler, like.
Well, yeah, Buehler. Well, he's a free agent, but.
They'll re-sign him.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, no, I just read a few hours ago that Walker Buehler could end up in Boston. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't like losing the guy that, closes out your World Series championship the very next year.
No. Yeah, I wouldn't like it either.
No.
They'll find a way to keep him around. They seem to always manage that.
Are the Phils done, Colin? Is this all we're signing Jordan Romano and running it back with what we got, or are other holes going to be fixed?
Well, Bohm's going to go. And they're going to get a nice return.
Teams don't view Bohm very highly, Colin.
Well, then then I guess Dave Dombrowski's going to have to do some convincing because
Willie
he
Adames
needs to go and I need a return.
Willie Adames signed for a pretty big deal with San Francisco. It was $172 million over 7 years or something. So that drives Bregman's price way up. Bregman's going to be over 200 million. That's kind of the guy you're looking at for third base if you do trade Bohm. It kind of sounds like Seattle is the place. George Kirby and Logan Gilbert are the two that could be
Yeah.
in return, and I'm a fan of both of them. Kirby, 14-11, 3.5 ERA in 33 starts in 191 innings, struck out 179 this past season, while Gilbert is kind of the better of the two. Worse record, but better ERA, more innings, 3.23 ERA in 208 innings, same amount of starts, 220 strikeouts, sub 1 WHIP. I mean, if you can get one of those guys out of that would be great. But also, Garrett Crochet is looming. White Sox reportedly declined a trade from the Phillies, including Bohm and Justin Crawford, for Garrett Crochet. So you kind of, at this point, it feels like you're kind of out on Crochet and turning more towards Seattle, or there's really not much like.
Yeah, so I don't think you turn toward Seattle yet. I mean, that wasn't a very generous deal from Mr. Dombrowski there. He could have done a little bit better. Come on
Well,
now.
I'm sure there was
Um,
more in there, but
yeah. But I mean, if you're talking about Crawford and Bohm as your main pieces, I think they'd look for a little bit more. I think you need a third guy of you know, some serious credentials in there. Um, whether it's a major league player or a minor league player. I do think that Seattle is more realistic, and I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to do some sort of smaller deal. That maybe doesn't include both Gilbert and Kirby because again,
it would be one of the two.
right, because you're blocked in by their by Taiwan Walker for now. I mean, it's been made pretty clear, even if it's indirectly, that he's going to get at least one more opportunity to be an everyday starting pitcher. And I guess what they're going to consider a fully healthy spring training. I don't really know what the attempted selling point is there, but all I can tell you, he is not very good, and it's not going to last very long.
That sounds like a lot of confidence. So, I mean,
No, there's none.
there's also Kyle Tucker. The Astros, I guess this week in the winter meetings were asked if they're open to anyone. They said they're open to anyone. So that includes mainly Framber Valdez and Kyle Tucker. I wanted the Phillies to trade for Kyle Tucker at the trade deadline last year. It hypothetically sounded awesome. But now he's available. Do you want to bring in two Astros that beat you in the 2022 World Series and Bregman and Kyle Tucker? Sure.
Yeah, why not? Convert him to the bright side.
You know, you can try Bohm, you can try Castellanos, you can try things with the Astros to make something happen. But Kyle Tucker, left-handed power bat that hits for kind of a 5-tool hitter. Like I ain't afraid of that.
Yeah, I wouldn't complain about seeing more home runs in the World Series, as long as he's in pinstripes.
Did he have the final out against the Phillies? Yeah, he did have the final catch. So that's kind of some PTSD. But
Yeah,
if
mile high
there's
pop
a
up.
if there's a smaller name you're looking for the Phillies in that outfield hole, because it sounds like left field is where they're looking. Martian, Rojas in center. Try that out for a little bit. And then you have your everyday constant left fielder. If there's a smaller name that you're looking at, if the Phillies can't get one of these big guys, what's the smaller name you're looking at?
I'll tell you, that's a tough question right now, Ben. I'm going to explain why. It's because if you look at last year, it was a weird season standings wise. Um, so it's very tough to tell which teams are willing to part with their players and which guys are planning on trying to build up their core um, to be competitive again in 2025. I think after winter meetings, we'll have a pretty good idea of who's going where and whether people will be staying or going, which GMs are selling and which GMs are looking to buy. Right
Yeah.
now, I
Go.
think I'd look for another Jeff Hoffman type of player. And I would go with the low risk, high reward. Maybe a Tyler O'Neill type of player. We saw him have a pretty good year in 2024. I don't know if has he shown the league yet that he's capable of sustaining that, and if not, can the Phillies nab him in a smaller deal, and he can fully prove himself when he's healthy and getting consistent at bats. So I don't know. I mean, that's the type of guy that I'd like to see the Phillies go out and get. Again, low risk, high reward, and they get two or three of them, right? See which one pans out. So yeah, I think they have a lot of opportunity this offseason. They've got the time, they've sure they got the money, and they've got the core to build around. I think the holes this year are very obvious. And they have direction, which I feel like they've lacked in the past. Because sometimes there's been, a guy locked down to this position, or, you know, they have these guys who they're super unwilling to part with. But this year they've said, yeah, Castellanos is on the block, right? Bohm's on the block. So if there's a deal, the Phillies aren't locked down with anybody. They're locked down with Wheeler, Harper, I'd say Schwarber probably. But if you're not in those three people, I don't think you have a guarantee for March. What is it? March 28th?
Something like that.
I don't think there's a guarantee. So I could see them making a plethora of moves. But yeah, like a Tyler O'Neill type of guy. This might be a little bit on the higher end, but Trent Grisham, like those are the names that I could see them going out and getting prior to opening day.
I like Tyler O'Neill. I like that. It's kind of an outfield guy. I mean, also, there's so many options that you can.
Right, yeah.
Like, the Phillies don't need the star. They don't need
No.
the headliner. They need a
They
guy
have the
that
headliners. They need a non-automatic out. That's what they have right now, unfortunately.
I mean, third base is kind of Bohm or Bregman at this point. Yeah, then you need to fill that left field spot. But, also bullpen, Tanner Scott.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's been a name they've been floating around for a while with Philadelphia.
Feels like
It's
years, Tanner
yeah,
Scott.
no, I was gonna say it's fallen through. Same with the other guy who used to be on Miami, Dylan Floro. He was thrown around a lot too, but yeah, I'm curious to see if they go for that. He's been pretty successful for a while now. He's not really anything, he's not gonna bedazzle you with his stuff or his velocity out of the bullpen, but he's a very, very good pitcher who can locate well, and he has the stuff and the velocity. While it might not be on pitching ninja every other night, he can get the job done consistently.
Tanner Scott in 72
Yeah, that
innings in
slider is good.
2024. Yeah, 2024, 72 innings. The left-hander, 1.75 ERA.
Yeah, that's something special.
If you want a guy that'll fill in for a Hoffman or Estevez, and
That's your guy.
you can update him with a left-hander, I would look at Tanner Scott. He played for the Marlins and the Padres last year. Okay.
And he's probably not going to kill you financially, if I had to take a guess.
No.
Because fortunately, he has not played on any of those super high market teams. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he was a little bit more successful in Miami than he was in San Diego, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that should work to the Phillies' benefit here, at least monetarily speaking.
Yeah, had a sub 1.2 ERA in Miami, and then a sub or a plus 2.7 in San Diego, 2.73 in San Diego in 28 games, and then in 44 games he had a 1.18 in Miami. So
right, so not a vast difference, but it's still pretty significant that it's not going to work against the Phillies that short time he played on that big market, even that not a small market team. So there's opportunity there.
Left-handers got that. They got the arm angle. He's got it all.
I love his wind up.
Yeah, he's got it all going on.
Flailing arm.
All right, before we talk about our final segment, we do need to talk about our great friends at SeatGeek.
Yeah, we do.
SeatGeek, the most easiest ticketing app to buy your tickets for sports, comedy, concerts, everything. The holiday season is here, and it's time to save. At SeatGeek, if you use code Philly Sports Report, you save $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Philly Sports Report, $20 off first purchase. What are we doing, Colin?
Hold the S. Hold it.
It's been a while since we said that. We haven't recorded in a while. So
I know.
shout out to
I could have
SeatGeek.
been rusty.
Links are in the description of the podcast. All right. Final segment. The great Richard Dick Allen is finally a Hall of Famer. It's been
Where he
decades.
belongs.
It's years of barely missing the cut, decades of deserving to be in, and the great Dick Allen is finally in the Hall of Fame. He got more than the 18.9% of voters he needed from the Golden Era Committee. Or I guess more than 12 votes. He needed 18.9 plus votes from the Baseball Writers Association of America in the 80s and 90s. Never got it. Was one vote away in 14 and 21. And finally, all these years later, there seems to be some good in the world and good people that are finally voting Dick Allen into the Hall of Fame. Listen to this. Allen hit 292, 378, and 533 in his career with a .912 OPS. 15-year career. Had 1,800 hits, 251 home runs, 1,100 RBIs, 7 All-Stars, Rookie of the Year, and MVP in the AL in 1972. I mean, he was a great player. He was a great slugger at the time. You know, you want to, you look at for the MLB, all Hall of Fames, you look at the best of that era, the guys who headlined that era. Dick Allen was right up there with Hank Aaron, Willie Mays. I mean, Allen had 20-plus homers, 850-plus OPS every season from 1964 to 74. The only other player to do that in that time span was Hank Aaron. Like, you want to look at a guy that's the best of his generation that should be in the Hall of Fame and should have been voted in 40 years ago, you look at Dick Allen.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, he did great things when he was playing for the Phillies as a member of the Phillies community after his baseball career. He's a member of the Wall of Fame, and I wish you were here to see it.
Yeah, Dick Allen passed away shortly after his number retirement ceremony in 2020. He was the first Philly who had his number retired as a non-Hall of Famer. So,
Oh, they can get rid of that, huh?
You make accommodations for great players, and no one deserved it more than Dick Allen. And also, you think about like the time he played it. Like it's the 60s. It's the high racial tension and hardship
Yeah.
in America, and Dick Allen was harassed by the media. Did not have good
Fans too.
did not have good relationships with the fans, the Phillies organization at the time, and he was the best player on the Phillies, and he was, getting stuff thrown at him and horrible comments. It was incredible what he was able to do in his time span, and on the field, he was amazing, a great human being, and it took way too long for him to be in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, it really does show you that just it's one simple thing, like the color of someone's skin can just cause people to completely lose perspective of everything else that's happening, which is really sad, but unfortunately the case.
All right, so let's do a little poll here. Let's see if you know, other than the Phillies, the 4 other teams that Dick Allen played.
Oh God. Oh no. Mm-mm.
Start guessing. One other team, I will say, wore the color red when he played there, but is no longer wears the color red.
Did he play for Atlanta?
He did not. They still wear red.
That wasn't why I was.
2 AL, 2 NL. He won the AL MVP in 1972, if that helps.
Oakland?
The Athletics is one of them. That was his last team, I think. The other AL team plays in the AL Central.
Cubs.
Who?
Chicago Cubs. You said
The
AL
Cub-
Central.
The Cubs play in the NL. You're very close, though, geographically.
White Sox, I assume. Then?
Yes. The White Sox wore red in 1970s.
That's news. What do those jerseys look like?
They were like basically the same, but they were red. Like the red pinstripes, Red Sox.
Oh, that's ugly.
Yeah. All right. The two other
You'll
teams.
never guess who popped up. It was Dick Allen. Was the example
you go.
picture?
The two other teams. Both in the
you
NL.
stumped me.
Both in the NL. Neither in the NL East.
Not the Dodgers. The Giants.
Where do all the old Phillies go when they're done with the Phillies?
The Dodgers at some point.
The Dodgers is one of them. And then the last one, AL Central.
Wait, no. There's two in the AL Central?
NL, National League Central.
Oh. The Cardinals, of course.
Yep. Dodgers, Cardinals, A's, and of course the Phillies. 2 stints with and the White Sox. 2 stints with the Phillies.
Yeah.
63,
I remember hearing about this when I
59,
toured
and then
Busch.
came back in 75, 76. Yeah, well deserved for Dick Allen.
For sure.
Very, very underrated, Dick Allen.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, his years in Philly especially were incredible.
All right. Let's wrap this up. Juan Soto makes a ton of money. Jordan Romano is a Philly. We'll see what else they do. Dick Allen's a Hall of Famer. Winter meetings are going on right now. So
Sounds like a typical day at the office. Money,
things are happening. See if
bullpen shakeups.
Yes.
What else is new, Ben?
I feel like we are talking about bullpen shakeups every year. If there's one move you want made by the time we're talking next, that's not trading Alec Bohm.
Ah, well, now I got to think about it. Ooh. Could it be a DFA?
All right. Let's do once a DFA, Colin Walker.
There you go. You know me too well.
I mean, how long have we been saying DFA Talon Walker for? 2 years?
I've lost count.
Yeah, it's been a while. All right, that's gonna do it from us. Thank you for watching and listening. We'll see you. We'll see you next time with some more Phil's news. Ben and Colin. This has been the Bell Ringers podcast on Philly Sports Reports, brought to you by SeatGeek. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Philly Sports Reports wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Follow the podcast on X and PSR on all social media. Also, consider leaving a review. Catch Colin and Benjamin's writing on phillysportsreports.com, along with following both on X. Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring the show.